Alright, welcome back to the channel. This is the Stylish Chatterbox. So today on this edition, I will be going over the Gold Cup, the CONCACAF Gold Cup 2023. So the competition began last Saturday, that was June 24th, opening game between the United States and Jamaica. So I'm just going to be catching up to speed as to what has transpired since then up to today. Today's Sunday, July 2nd. So I'm going to be going through all the scores just to catch you up to speed as to what's been happening so far. All right, so first game was between the United States and Jamaica. That game ended 1-1. Second game was Trinidad and Tobago versus St. Kitts and Nevis. Trinidad and Tobago won that game 3-0. Following that was Haiti versus Qatar. Haiti 2, Qatar 1. Mexico, Honduras. Mexico 4, Honduras 0. El Salvador, Martinique. El Salvador 1, Martinique 2. Costa Rica, Panama. Costa Rica 1, Panama 2. And Canada, Guadeloupe. That was a tie. Canada 2, Guadeloupe 2. Guatemala versus Cuba. Guatemala 1, Cuba 0. Jamaica. This was Wednesday, June 28th. Jamaica versus Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica 4, Trinidad 1. St. Kitts and Nevis versus the United States. USA 6, St. Kitts and Nevis 0. Qatar versus Honduras. Qatar 1, Honduras 1. Haiti versus Mexico. Thursday, June 29th. Haiti 1, Mexico 3. Yesterday's game, Saturday, that was July 1st. Cuba versus Guadeloupe. Cuba 1, Guadeloupe 4. And Guatemala versus Canada. That was a draw. Canada 0, Guatemala 0. Today's games are Jamaica versus St. Kitts and Nevis, and that game is at 7 p.m. This evening. And USA versus Trinidad and Tobago, also at 7 p.m. For the late games, you have Honduras versus Haiti at 9 p.m. and Mexico versus Qatar, also at 9 p.m. So I want to look at a couple of teams and their preparations prior to the Gold Cup. So I'm going to be looking at Jamaica, United States, Mexico, Canada. So prior to the Gold Cup, Canada, the United States, Mexico, and Panama played in the Nations League CONCACAF Nations League semifinals. In those games, the United States, in the first final game between Mexico and the United States won that game 3-0. And in the second game between Panama and Canada, Canada won that game 2-0. And the final between the United States and Canada ended with the United States beating Canada 2-0. So these four teams are well prepared coming into the Gold Cup. I did not get a chance to see those games, but based on highlights and looking through some of the reviews on those games, it's you look at the United States, you look at Mexico. Of course, Mexico lost to the U.S., so you would conclude that the United States coming into the Gold Cup was well prepared and or a favorite to actually win the whole thing. And of course, you have the United States and Mexico, always perennial favorites in the Gold Cup. Canada, not quite sure what to make of Canada. Of course, they lost 2-0 to the United States in the Nations League, in the CONCACAF Nations League finals. So I'm not quite sure what to make of Canada at this point, especially with the absence of Alphonso Davies. I mean, they're severely, no disrespect to Canada, but they are severely weakened without Alphonso Davies. So I'm not quite sure what to expect from Canada in the Gold Cup. Now there are before I get to Jamaica, I just want to go over the groups with you. So Group A, if you're not already aware of the groups, Group A, you have the United States, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis. That's Group A. Group B, you have Mexico, Haiti, Qatar, and Honduras. That's Group B. Group C, you have Panama, Martinique, Costa Rica, El Salvador. And Group D, you have Guadeloupe, Guatemala, Canada, and Cuba. Now let me just get you up to speed as to the standings in each of these groups. In Group D, Guadeloupe leads the group with 4 points, plus 3 goal difference. Guatemala is in second place, 4 points, plus 1 goal difference. Canada followed in third, and Cuba in last place, in fourth place. Group C, you have Panama, Martinique, Costa Rica, and El Salvador. Panama has 6 points, plus 2 goal difference. Martinique, 3 points, no goal difference, or 0 goal difference. Costa Rica in third place, 1 point, or perhaps I should go back. Martinique has 3 points and 0 goal difference. Costa Rica, 1 point, minus 1 goal difference. El Salvador, 1 point. 1 point for El Salvador, and a -1 goal difference. And that's Group C. Group B. So Group B, you have Mexico, Haiti, Qatar, Honduras. Mexico has 6 points, +6 goal difference. Haiti, 3 points, -1 goal difference. Qatar in third place, 1 point and a -1 goal difference. And in fourth place, Honduras, 1 point, -4 goal difference. And that's Group B. And in Group A, the last group, you have the United States, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis. United States, 4 points, goal difference +6. Jamaica in second place, 4 points, goal difference 3. In third place, Trinidad and Tobago, 3 points, 0 goal difference. St. Kitts and Nevis, 0 points, -9 goal difference. So, getting back to the preparations leading up to the Gold Cup, as I indicated before, that as I covered before, Mexico, United States, Canada, and Panama. Now, Jamaica had some games. Prior to the Gold Cup, some few friendly games leading up to the, as I said, leading up to the Gold Cup. And a lot of people, a lot of Jamaicans were critical of the friendly games and the performances that Jamaica, the way that Jamaica performed. The Jamaican people were not very pleased with what they saw. Now, I have a different opinion. I think that friendly games are the time where you look at players, you size up, who can do what. You're looking at people, you're looking at potential starting lineups, strengths and weaknesses, and so on. I mean, that's what friendly games are for, tune-up games. That's what these things tell you. And I think that's what Hymir Hallgrímsson was doing. I think he was looking at formations, players, and so on. Now, the first game that Jamaica played was March 11th. They played against Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidad won that game 1-0. The second game that they played, and these were just preparations before, like I said, before the Gold Cup. They played a follow-up game against Trinidad and Tobago, and that ended in a 0-0 draw, and that was on March 14th. Following that, actually there was supposed to be a game between Jamaica and Guatemala. That game was cancelled. And the next game after that was Jamaica versus Qatar. Qatar won that game 2-1, and that was on June 15th. And subsequent to that game, Jamaica played Jordan, and also lost that game 2-1. And like I said, the Jamaican public was not pleased and began to make a lot of noise about what Hymir Hallgrímsson brings to the table. And I was one, because I follow the the sports chatter in Jamaica, and I disagreed entirely with what I was hearing insofar as the criticism towards Halgrimson, the coach, the technical director for Jamaica. I was completely in disagreement. I mean, Halgrimson is a new coach for Jamaica, and people have to recognize that coaches need time, especially when you're looking at a low budget nation, football federation. It's a much arduous task for any coach to go to an island nation like Jamaica and expect miracles, for lack of a better term, right away. That's a rarity. You're not going to see that at all. So I would urge the Jamaican fans and the people of Jamaica just to be patient. I think Halgrimson, this man, what he brings to the table, if you're questioning that, I mean, he brought Iceland to the World Cup, right? He brought Iceland to the Euros and defeated England. I mean, this is a major feat given the size of this country. Iceland, I'm referring to. So he brings a lot to the table, and he needs time to get that team to gel and to play the type of football that he wants to play. And based on what I've seen so far, I think Jamaica is lucky to have this guy. There was never an issue, in my view. There was never an issue with the talent that we have in Jamaica. What the problem that we have in Jamaica is an inflated sense of how good we are. Like I said, talent is not in question, but that's the least of what's required to have a good program, a good football federation, a good program, a product that you put on the pitch. It takes a lot more than talent, infrastructure, organization, coaching, knowledgeable coaching, development of youth players. These are myriad components that go into the building of a program, a formidable infrastructure in any country. So, Jamaica is in my view, is quite lucky to have this coach. But anyway, let me just, I want to talk about the game between the United States and Jamaica. That was the opening game. And I was very impressed with the Reggae Boys. They played a disciplined style of football. And I think, in retrospect, looking back, I think that they gave the United States too much respect, because they had that game won. Even with Leon Bailey missing that penalty, they still had that game won. I wasn't too impressed. Like I had mentioned before, that the United States came in on a high. They seemed quite ready for this tournament, but I wasn't too impressed with what I saw from them. I believe that they were outplayed for the entirety of the game. Well, not the entirety, but for most of the game. I mean, in the second half, the United States came back and pressed, and they ended up with the tying goal. The game ended 1-1, and they got the tying goal. So I give them credit for that. They show that desire to pull out that draw. But having that type of commentary on the United States, the fact that they had to struggle for a draw, it says a lot about where the team is at this point. So I wasn't too impressed, given what we're used to from the United States. I wasn't too impressed. So Jamaica, in my view, Jamaica looked good, played well, and I think they deserved to come away with 3 points from that game, but they couldn't hold on. The second game that the Reggae Boys played against Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not going to talk about that game at length, except I want to talk about one player. Actually, two players. Lambert, my friends and I saw Lambert at Trinity Health Stadium last year, 2022. They played against Lambert plays for Phoenix Rising, and they played a game against Hartford Athletic in Hartford. And I didn't know who Lambert was at that point, but my friends and I in the stands realized that this guy has a certain swagger, a typical Jamaican swagger, and we were guessing that this guy has to be a Jamaican. And when he was substituted, my friend and I went down and we asked him if he were Jamaican, and he said yeah. So, and one of the reasons why we were interested and curious about him was just the way he played. I mean, this is a sophisticated player. Lambert is a sophisticated footballer. I know that's a weird word to use to describe a footballer, but I use that word to describe him because the way he plays, it's not typical of what we see here in North America. I mean, this is the style that he has, and the way he plays, and the intelligence with which he plays. I see that in Europe. Particularly. I mean, I see it in South America as well, but particularly I see that style, that sophistication, that level of understanding of the position that he plays. That's what we noticed. And later on we found out that he was playing for Jamaica. So the two games that I watched between the first game between the United States and the second game between Jamaica and, let me just go back. The first game between the United States and Jamaica, and then the second game between Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, in my view, I thought Lambert was the outstanding player. Player of the game for both games. I thought Lambert. Too often we always look at goal scorers and flair attackers, and we tend to just focus on these types of players, attackers and goal scorers, right? We tend to look at these players as man of the match and so on, right? And we overlook players like Lambert. I mean, this guy is just absolutely brilliant in his position. He plays holding midfielder for Jamaica, or one of the two. But he's a standout guy. I mean, he knows he's like an Italian type player. He knows, the dark arts, as it were. He knows how to conduct himself in that part of the field, and he does not, when he wins it, when he wins those balls, he does not dwell. He hands it off to the attackers and so on. So for me, Lambert, absolutely outstanding, man of the match both games. Now the next player that I want to talk about is Leon Bailey. It is undoubtedly that it is without a doubt that Leon Bailey is a talented footballer. Unquestionable. When Leon Bailey plays for his professional soccer. He plays for Aston Villa in the English Premier League. He plays for Aston Villa, and if you observe the way he plays for Aston Villa, it's night and day comparing to his output for the Reggae Boys. When he represents Jamaica, it's a different guy we're looking at. It's almost like you have to ask, is this the same guy? Because it's a completely different way of playing. Now, my take on that is this, and I think in my view it is quite obvious. I mean, no disrespect to Leon Bailey, but I have a sense that Leon Bailey thinks that CONCACAF is a lesser competition. Now, I would urge, now objectively, you can argue, we can have that argument whether CONCACAF competition is on par with the Premier League. We can have that argument, and it's okay if you want to think that way. But if it's going to affect the way you play, then I would advise Leon Bailey to get rid of that kind of thinking. Because when he plays for Jamaica, in my view, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a guy who is condescending to the opponent in the way he plays. I mean, he wants to take on the entire team. And it doesn't matter who he's playing. If he's playing the United States, if he's playing against Mexico, if he's playing against Trinidad and Tobago, Honduras, Panama, whatever the opponent is. This is what I observe. And I'm here to tell Leon Bailey that you need to, if that is indeed the case, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I see, but I hope I'm wrong. And if that is indeed the case, I would say, please dispel of the notion of this type of thinking that you are better than, or this competition is less than. Again, objectively, it may not. I mean, we can argue, we can have that argument, we can debate that, but that's not the mindset to have when you're competing. You need to respect your opponent. You need to have respect for your opponent. Now, with that in mind, Leon Bailey, again, talented footballer. But you have to go back to the basics, Leon. Fundamental technique, ball control, passing. I was going to say pace, but I don't see pace as part of your game. I mean, you do have good pace, but you're not going to outrun your opponent. That's not what I see. I don't see you outrunning your opponent. So I would urge you to use what you have at your disposal. I mean, you have a guy like Mikel Antonio. This man is just an absolute beast of a striker. He's strong, relentless, never gives up. A little bit tired in this competition, I would say, though. I think he's had a long season in the Premier League, and he just won the Nations Nations League or Nations Cup, or he had a long season, and it's showing so far in these games. But even still, even at 70%, 60%, Mikel Antonio is a tough striker to mark. He's relentless. He's tough. And Leon Bailey needs to utilize what he has next to him. Pass the ball. Just pass the ball. Surprise your marker. Surprise him, because your markers, your defenders know how you play. They know how you play. They're always going to send you to your right because you don't have a right foot, Leon. You do not have a right foot. I mean, that debacle that you did, that we saw with the penalty versus the United States, that says it all. I mean, what more evidence do you need? Poor taken penalty, and then when it ricocheted back to you, or when it was played back to you by the goalkeeper, it landed on your right foot, and we all saw what happened. So, and if I may be a little bit more technical in my criticism of you, you don't have a cultured left foot. You do not have a cultured left foot. You are most effective when you go to your left. You are completely ineffective when you go to your right. And that's what I mean, that your left foot is not cultured. So I would say to Leon, just get back to basics. Use the fundamentals that you have at your disposal. You have great technique. I believe that you're a good passer, but you're not thinking, Leon. You're not thinking, right? I'm not seeing that part of your game. I'm not seeing the cerebral side of your game. You're not thinking. You're just trying to dribble people, right? So that's my take, and that is the end of this edition of the Stylish Chatterbox. I'm gonna wrap it up and then get ready for the game between Trinidad and Tobago later on. Not Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica versus St. Kitts and Nevis, and the United States versus Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm going to wrap it up here and get ready for those games. So this is the Stylish Chatterbox. Until next time, guys, take care. I'm out. Welcome back to the channel. Gold Cup update. I just finished watching the games, the final games in Group A between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica versus St. Kitts and Nevis. So, final scores: Jamaica 5, St. Kitts and Nevis 0, United States 6, Trinidad and Tobago 0. So the final standings in Group A, United States won the group with 4 goals difference, and Jamaica finishing second. Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis have been eliminated. That's the Gold Cup update for Group A. Before I go, I just wanted to highlight something in the Jamaica versus St. Kitts and Nevis game. Now, if you listen to my previous comments regarding Leon Bailey, and if you saw the game that we all just watched, that's exactly what I was talking about. Leon Bailey showed his quality, showed his class. Leon Bailey recognized that he doesn't have to take on the entire team. You don't have to dribble always. You don't have to constantly hold on to the ball. Look at the way he played today. I mean, that was absolutely outstanding. Now, no, he didn't score. And I'm pretty sure quite a number of you guys out there will disagree with me. But disagree all you want. But this was Leon Bailey's most effective game that I've seen so far, representing the Reggae Boys. Now, I know that the opponent was, and no disrespect to St. Kitts and Nevis, but I know that the opponent was not as challenging as say, for example, the United States or upcoming opponents. But this is what I mean when I talk about Leon Bailey. He showed me that cerebral side of his game that I was questioning. He showed me that today. That's exactly what I wanted to see from Leon Bailey. That was a professional output from him. That was an intelligent output from him, from Leon Bailey. He knew when to hold on to the ball. He knew when to pass. He knew his positioning, his scheming across the top of the last three. He knew that was a sublime performance for me from Leon Bailey, and that's what I would like to see going forward. You must have been listening to me, Leon. I feel vindicated. You must have been listening to me. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's free, and all you have to do is just click that button. That's all you have to do. All right? So, until next time, take care, guys. I'm out.